Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Baker and Taylor Summer Reading Young Adult Author Panel. I know some folks are joining us. Thank you for joining us today. I'll let some folks flow in here to attend, but I'm going to get started and I'm going to introduce everybody we have here today for a young adult author panel. My name is Grace LaRochelle and I'm the Children's and Teen Specialist here in the East at Baker and Taylor, as well as being a former youth librarian. So programs like this are very near and dear to my heart. As part of our yearly prize book program, where we offer discounted titles for giveaway books for your summer reading programs, we also host live author events throughout the entire month of June this year. Today, we are very grateful and very excited to have these fantastic award-winning young adult authors with us, and all of them have titles on our giveaway titles list. So if you want to give away these books to patrons in your community, you can do so. Just get in touch with us here on the CATS team. So I'd like to introduce our moderator and our authors briefly before we dive in. First, I want you to meet our moderator, Marisa Hicking, a bookworm and lover of all types of young adult literature. As a kid growing up, no one knew what she looked like because her face was always buried in a good book. Just kidding. But after college, she was a children's manager at Barnes & Noble for 7 years, surrounded by YA tales and picture books, where she discovered she loved talking books and worked on her MLS. She took her love for YA and became the teen librarian at the Avon Free Public Library from 2012 to 2022, where she created a popular and diverse YA collection. Currently, she's the Children's and Teen Services Manager at the same library, and her passion for YA literature is as bright as ever, devouring YA and middle grade books in all their forms: print, audio, graphic novels, all to reach her Goodreads goal of 201 books, which is impressive. Next, we have our author, Carpetta. Carpetta is the Lambda-winning author of the HeartBreak Bakery, The Lost Coast, Echo After Echo, and the Brilliant Death series. They co-authored Once and Future, a bestseller and finalist for the New England Book Award with their spouse, Corey McCarthy, as well as its sequel, Sword in the Stars. They co-edited the SF anthologies, Tasting Light, 10 Stories to Rewire Your Perceptions for MIT Press, and penned an official Stranger Things novel, Rebel Robin. As a teacher of writing, they co-created the Rainbow Writers Workshop and are on faculty at VCFA. Their published work includes fantasy, science fiction, romantic comedy, mystery, and lots of genre bending and blending. Learn more at onceandfuturestories.com. Next, we have with us today the Gibbs sisters, Shawnee Gibbs and Shanelle Gibbs. They are an award-winning writing team with backgrounds in television, animation, and comics. They've served as lead writers for Cartoon Network, staff writers for Warner Brothers Animation, and have written for DreamWorks Animation, Mattel Studios, and Marvel Comics. Their critically acclaimed debut YA graphic novel, Ghost Roast, debuted in January 2024 and recently received an official nomination for the Young Adult Library Services Association's 2025 Great Graphic Novels for Teens Award. Originally from Oakland, California, where the sisters currently live, work, and play in Los Angeles, where Shawnee fancies herself an amateur history detective and Shanelle decompresses and cuddles with her infant son. And lastly, for our authors today, we have Isaac Blum. He's the National Book Award longlisted and William C. Morris Award-winning author of The Life and Crimes of Hoodie, Rosen. He's taught English at several colleges and universities and at Orthodox Jewish and public schools. He holds an MFA in creative writing from Rutgers Camden, and his stories and essays have appeared in the Iowa Review, the New York Times, and One Teen Story, among other places. Isaac lives with his wife in Philadelphia, where he watches sports and read books that make him laugh while showing him something true about the world. You can visit Isaac online at isaacblumauthor.com and follow him on Twitter, or X, now it's called, Instagram, both at IsaacBlum_. I'm going to turn it over to Marisa to take it from here. We're so excited to hear more from these authors. Also, feel free, folks, to put your questions in the chat. We'll get to them a little later on. Take it away, Marisa.
Thank you so much, Grace. I am super excited to be here to get to talk to all of these amazing, award-winning, talented authors today. So, I mean, I feel a little intimidated. You guys are so award-winning and amazing. But I know I've read and reread your books, but I would love to make sure our audience gets to get a little taste in the book talk of what you're working on now. So could each of us, in turn, tell us a little bit about your newest title? I will let whoever wants to fight it out go first. I know. Feel free to raise your hand. We do unicorn horns and moose antlers in my library, but it's a long story. COVID was weird.
Okay, well, I'll get started, and we can tell you all about Ghost Rose, which is a graphic novel. It's a YA graphic novel, paranormal adventure. Oh, cool! It's set in New Orleans. So Shanae and I are the co-authors. We wrote the book, and the beautiful illustrations were done by Emily Cannon, and the colors by Ashwarya Tandon. And so it's about a 15-year-old girl named Chelsea who has to work with her ghost hunting dad for the summer. And she discovers she has some gifts that I don't want to give away too much, but so she learns how to use these gifts to help the living and the dead. And so there's lots of fun, laughter, some adventure, and we're just enjoying being able to come out and talk about it and share it, and so happy it's in the world. So thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I will, not a spoiler, just say there is a ghost cat in case that hooks some librarians, and maybe even a ghost horse. So if you're a former horse girl like me, didn't have one, just love them.
Yes, if you're into ghost animals, it might be the title for you.
Hey, I love to hook them with a little not spoilery detail. So thank you for giving a little book pitch. All right, I'll let Isaac or AR, who wants to go next, to tell us about your.
I'll go next. So I wrote this book. It's called The Life and Crimes of Hoodie Rosen. Let's see. It is about Hoodie. He's short for Yehuda. He's 15. He and his Orthodox Jewish community are moving to a new town, and the locals don't really want them there. And then he really messes up and he falls in love with the mayor's daughter, but the mayor's the one trying to keep him and his community out of the town. And then lots of bad things happen, including, but not limited to, anti-Semitic violence. I think that's a pretty good summary. It's a book about community and cross-cultural friendship, and also a significant amount about anti-Semitism. But I think it's kind of funny. It's a lot, or at least it has a lot of jokes. I tried. Yeah.
That's perfect. I will say Moshe Tzvi was my favorite character, so a little love for him. And there's fun facts about American starbursts and UK starbursts, and you can find out the difference, which I did not know there was a difference.
Yeah, and it's dead horse related, a little bit like the ghost roast, in that it has to do with the gelatin and whether it's kosher that it's used in the starbursts in the UK versus in the United States. So I'm assuming AR's book has something to do with dead horses.
Gotta have a dead horse, AR, or we're gonna be really No, yours is beautiful and has pies and cakes. But AR, would you like to tell us about your newest work? And it's fine if there's not a ghost horse.
There's not, although no, there's no ghost animals. I'm sorry. So my book is The HeartBreak Bakery. I call it a YA rom-com with recipes. And it stars Sid, who is a self-described agender cupcake, who works at an LGBTQ bakery in Austin called the Proud Muffin. And one day in the midst of being broken up with for the first time, bakes a batch of brownies that then break up everyone who eats them. So then has to go around, or decides that it is now Sid's mission to go around and unbreak up everyone, or reunite everyone who's been broken up by these brownies. So it's got it's got magic and it's got lots and lots of romance in lots of flying in lots of different directions. One of the things that was most delightful and fun about this one was that it is also as a sort of community-centered book. I got to tell lots of stories within it that sort of all interact and cross in wild ways, and that was a lot of fun to get to do. Yeah.
I love it. You didn't warn everyone that they're going to get insatiably hungry from reading this about all the muffins. You should put a warning on.
I should, like, it should be on the flap.
It should. It's like trigger warning. You're going to get hungry. Have a pie, have a cake, have a muffin handy, or you're going to get hangry. Though the good thing is it is a little bit of a cookbook in there because you put the magical recipes in.
So if you don't have ideas of what you want to be eating yet, hopefully you will by the time you're done with the book.
Yes, I'm not a baker. I burn things, but I got an urge to do the peach strawberry basil pie, which I was like, interesting.
That's my favorite one. And the whole because I've been asked before and had to really think it through. That's my favorite recipe for the
quick side question. These are real recipes, like they're for real.
Oh, yeah. They're real recipes. I tested all. I was a baker before I was an author, so this is very much coming from that place of just always having wanted to write a character who communicated through baked goods, who really expressed emotion that way and really found a way to connect with other people through that, because I think that's what I did a lot when I was younger, and looking for the ways that we all like find those interesting languages and share things with each other, also in terms of having a community book, but yeah, that's where it came from. They're all real, they're all very tested. I had a friend of mine who owns a baking store also co-tested them with me, and then my editor had to have more people test them, because when you put out a book with recipes in it, you have to make sure that they work and that they do what they say they're going to do for the most part.
Idiot proof. Like, okay, so I think we collectively can let AR slide that they don't have a ghost horse or cat. They do have magical realism. So the fact that they have a lot of recipes will make up for it. So we're good. So we got our little elevator pitches done. I love it. If you've read it or if you've not, you literally, if you're not going to buy it, go to the library, support your library. So I love it. So thank you for giving us the book pitch. Next question, I'll let you guys figure out who wants to go first, is for all of you. We're all here where we are now, but this is going to be a question from way back. Tell us about your favorite children's or teen titles or author, either when you were growing up or now, because that helped form us where we are now. So who wants to take on that? Chestnut. Right now. We'll go in different order. We'll keep us guessing. Isaac, I saw your Jeopardy button for a second.
Well, for a sec, because I don't know to jump in. All right, I'll just go.
Yes.
Okay, favorite. I thought about this because I had the questions beforehand, and I decided just to narrow it down to, this is like arbitrary, but to my favorite Jewish YA books and young adult books, because if I didn't, like, I would just not know where to go. But so my favorite books growing up were, when I was a little bit younger, all the ones by E.L. Konigsberg, like From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Lee Frankweiler, or The View from Saturday. And then as I got a little bit older, as a teen, my favorite books were Chaim Potok's books, especially The Chosen and My Name is Asher Lev, which are just like spectacular coming of age stories about Jewish kids. Although I think some of those are like the big ones. The Chosen was a National Book Award finalist and everything, but like if you read those and then you want more, like he's got a deep catalog of like solid hits. So it's worth going into like the, if your library doesn't have them, maybe the larger system does, put them on hold and get them in, because they're like, those are amazing. And then there's an amazing book that came out last year. No, was it 2022? I get lost with time. But I'm a huge fan of Sasha Lamb's work, especially with their debut novel, When the Angels Left the Old Country, was just like a phenomenal, fun, and fascinating, like kind of historical fiction, kind of fantasy, very, very Jewish, very full of like Jewish, lots of like traditional Jewish stories sort of woven in with Jewish magic. So there you go. That's a list of both old favorites and contemporary novel that I recommend.
You just jumped in. It was great. You got some classics, you got some new ones. I know we're always looking to add more Jewish-centered main character stories, just because, I mean, for a whole diverse range of readers, but in general, we're always adding to it. So we love being plugged for that. For AR, Shawnee, or Shanelle, who wants to go first? Or for your your childhood or now favorites?
Okay, I will jump in first. So early on, I really remember there was a book series called the Cam Jensen book series. It was about
They're still there.
yes, an amateur detective with a photographic memory, and I just remember loving those stories because it was a young girl who was a protagonist, and she was just out there in the world solving all of these mysteries. And it was just something that I had never, read anything like that before. And then, like when I was young, I remember Richard Scarry's books, like all of his Busy Town series, really taught us, I think both of us, Shanelle and I, how to draw. And I loved how there were these in his work, animal characters had like these human sort of job roles. And when we were learning how to draw, I think it really inspired us to get in, to combine art and words together. And then as we become older, it was difficult, I think, in our childhood to find books that had African American protags and young adult work when we were young. So we were at Chanel, we were reading older. We were reading Terry McMillan. It's Terry McMillan, B. Moore Campbell books. Yeah. These were Black women going through life hard, you know what I mean, in the 90s and all this sort of stuff. But really helped us with our voice and all that sort of stuff, develop our taste and that thing. Sorry. Yeah. Oh no, and then miraculously discovered, everybody knows us about it. If you ever heard us talk about one of our greatest inspirations, Octavia Butler. Just discovering her when we were in high school. It was incredible to discover Kindred and just all of her book, her works. After we read Kindred, we were just like, what else has this woman written? We've got to just devour everything. Science fiction, speculative work, seeing African American characters in space and in different time periods, and just all sorts of things. Really just helped to inspire us both. So Octavia Butler is a huge inspiration for myself and Shanelle as well.
I love that you mentioned Richard Scarry and like the Worm Apple Car, as well as Octavia Butler. It's a range. Honestly, it's a spectrum. I love that you went from the very beginning to that. But like a lot of people, you write the books you didn't see for yourself, the kind of thing. So you're creating it now.
Oh, yeah.
We need more graphic novels. We need more LGBTQ ones. We need more Jewish-centered main characters. We need more ghost stories, ghost cats. # ghost cats. Make it happen on X. All right. I love it. are you ready to share from then or from now what were like the formative books for you?
Yeah, I felt like my then list was a little funny in conversation with HeartBreak Bakery, because when I was younger, I read fantasy, just high fantasy, portal fantasy. If it was magic and I could get my hands on it, that's what I wanted to read. So obviously there's still a lot of magic that gets folded into everything I'm writing in different ways. Some of it's in our world and some of it's more fantastically set than others. But so I went more with the now part of the question. One of the YA authors who I feel like everything that comes out from him, I'm delighted by. And also he writes in so many different interesting directions and genres, is L.C. Rosen, who wrote Camp and Lion's Legacy and Emmett and a passel of delightful books. Also Lily Anderson, who I feel like has some of the funniest, most unique contemporary YA that's often tinged with supernatural or magical elements. Scouts Honor, Undead Girl Gang, and all of those delightful books as well. And then I also thought about H.A. Clark, who wrote the Scapegracer series, which is darker but so delicious. And so if like magic and YA and sort of these things all folded together and lots of queer witchy goings on are what you're looking for, it's a very good place to be.
I mean, queer witchy is like an all year vibe in our library. We have
we don't wait for spooky season. Just all year.
Make it all year round. Make it the holiday. Just don't stop celebrating. Just keep it going. November 1st, you know what? You're 364 days away. Just keep it going. We love.
I'm currently reading Queer Witchy, Brooms, the graphic novel.
Yes, I love that
Yes,
one.
yes,
I love it.
so yes. Love
Also,
it.
I love adding things to my to be read pile. So I'm like, okay, no. I'm like, yeah, got that one, got that one. No, I think Scapegoaters is on book 3 now. So fun fact. Oh, and just because I'm a librarian and I have to say this, for anyone who's watching at their library, if your library doesn't have the books that they talked about, you can put in a request for recommendations. If you're like my library, our budget resets on July 1st. So we love recommendations and putting holds on for people. And we want to support our authors by buying their books. I had to put that plug in, so thank you so much. All right. So next question to power through. So how did you start and why did you start writing? Because I feel like a lot of people have the itch, the burn, but it comes at different times. Who would like to start? I know. There's no wrong. I'm not gonna be the teacher.
I'll start.
Ooh,
I tried to think about this. I tried to think about when exactly. So, you know, blur. But I really remember when this was back in the day. I don't know if this still exists, but that like butcher paper that they present to you when you're in elementary school. It looks like butcher paper and it has the top part for the drawing, and then the big when you're learning how to write and you had the big section below for your words. I just remember saying, now this is for me. I don't know about anything else that's happening here, in the classroom, the talking with others, the communicating with other kids, and this paper is for me. Shanae and I started off doodling a lot. Our mom was an artist. She taught us how to draw. So it was like our language of our communication. One of our communications languages at home to speak was through, doodling. Our mom had her sketchbook. She'd be teaching us things. There was like a back and forth sort of thing. So it was always in our lives. And then my mom would take us to not only the libraries, Oakland Public Library, nearby Berkeley Library, where these, places where we just lost ourselves, but we would also go to the flea market for to buy cheap books. My mom would get these books from teach us how to draw, all this sort of thing. So we just, devoured everything, and it just became this thing. And we were making comics before we even, had language for them. And eventually, I knew that writing was going to be a part of my career in high school, when I ended up, we both ended up at becoming editors at the school newspaper. And so just having kids be like, oh, I read that. Sometimes we would combine and do joint articles. So once I got that first byline, it was over. It was like, oh gosh, I love this feeling, So I knew for sure that it would be a part of my life, after journalism in high school.
I like it. You felt it. It was encouraged. I love that family encouraged it. Sometimes I feel like we don't get enough support for creativity or the arts or writing. So good job, Mom. Good job. Isaac or AR, who would like to take Isaac's volunteering?
I myself just going for it. All right, so I probably started writing in high school. I think it was just like many people have a natural desire to express themselves or their feelings or something about the world that they just sort of need to do. But for me, it wasn't like I was cool with like any medium to do that. But I was not good at like painting, for example, or drawing. Like the best I could do was like a stick figure. And I tried writing a lot of songs, but they were all very bad. And so I decided that, even though I wouldn't say a good writer at the time, it was like the way of self-expression that was I was the least bad at. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to get someday I'm going to get external validation that I desire from this,
Yes.
the shot I've got is the writing, because like the other ones aren't going to cut it. So it's like, if I needed someone to praise me for my art or creativity, for my own, I don't know, sense of self-worth. Not that that's a good way to do it. Like you shouldn't need external praise to do that, but that's something
It's nice.
over time. It is nice. Yeah, it's really nice. So, you can still desire it. So I figured like this is the one that I need to stick with. So I was there was a creative writing like elective thing at my school when I was 17-ish. And so I started writing short stories for that class. And I was like, well, this is fun. And I'm like not totally terrible at it. So I've been writing since then, pretty much continuously.
I love it. I love you don't want to visit the world like my terrible guitar skills. You're like, let's write.
The thing about visiting it upon the world implies that I have some agency. Like if I could visit that upon the world, if I could force the world to listen to the songs that I wrote, I would. Like show me the platform for that, and I'm all about it.
Okay, let's limit Isaac only to writing unless we hear the quality of this. Okay, good. I mean, things go viral now for much less reasons. See, just the wrong time. All right, now AR, you're up. What inspired you to be a writer?
I was trying to live inside of a fantasy world. I think I just wanted to immerse myself in those worlds as a reader first, and then as a writer, it just felt natural. I don't think at first I realized I was setting out to become a writer. I thought I was just trying to spend more time in these sorts of worlds. And I think as a queer kid who didn't have any language for that yet, or any way of really thinking about that or talking about that, the idea of having some more agency in like how you relate to the world was so huge. And so just getting to be creative and imaginative and not necessarily have the rules that the worlds that I was creating have the same rules or social ways of existing as our world was such a delight to me. And then I just kept doing this, and and Shanelle, when you're talking about the paper and how that was so key, I realized that I had something like that. I had a composition, one of those black and white marbled composition notebooks. Yeah. And I'd been writing stories for along the little bits and pieces of stories, but the first time I got a black and white marbled composition notebook in middle school, I sat down with it and I was like, this is magic, and I will fill it with a book. And it actually took 3.5 of them.
Oh, okay.
But I just kept going. There was something about having that connection with a physical place to put your creativity, to put your story, that just felt right. So I'm thank you for, I feel like I remembered that because of inspired that.
Good memories are coming up. I love it. I will say I am not a writer. I have no urge to write, but I love talking about your books. That is my gift. It's my fun. So I will not visit upon the world my writing because I have no itch for it. That's totally fine. All right. So next question. This one in my teen book discussion group, we usually say like, are you a pantser or a plotter? But the actual question I'm going to ask is, what comes first for you when you're writing? The plot, the characters, or something else? This is not like one of the astrology questions. This is just like, what comes first? Some people just write. Some people are like, I know the ending before I begin. I'm fascinated to know the answer on this one. I love it. Who would like to start first? Volunteering. Again. You want to do moose antlers?
I might be a plotter. I think maybe the idea of the story comes first.
Okay.
And then it's always like characters are always just sort of cooking in the background. You know what I mean? It's like characters might come, yeah, and or maybe somebody inspires something, and that person fits nicely into the plot that you're building. But I think stories always come to me first, and the rest flows. And I love just the idea of even just how Ghost Roast came. Mm-hmm. We grew up, our grandmother, maternal grandmother is from the South, she has roots in Louisiana, roots in Texas. And so we always had, ghost stories that surrounded us. And so I think it was always just brewing, the story of doing something with ghosts, and Ghost Roast was sort of, emerged out of that. So for me, I think it's plot, and then everything else comes next. Yeah, I'd love to know how everybody else. And Shanae actually worked in paranormal television as well. She's not even. This is a whole other thing. Yeah, I wanted to talk so much about baking when AR was talking about baking. Oh yeah, because Shanae put that to the side. Yeah, we'll put it to the side. Stories. Yes, and I also so. Okay, grandmother goes. So this is how stories come for me. Yeah. Like it brews. It's like an evolution. So you've got the growing up, like people talking about ghosts all the time. You're like, okay, something's there. And then I started working in paranormal television, and it's a job that doesn't even exist anymore. AI, listen, but there used to be, like transcribers. I was working in paranormal television, docu-style stuff where, ghost hunters and people who are paranormal enthusiasts would go out and investigate places. So I was watching like all the footage that came back, hours and hours, endless of footage of like just scary stuff. And I was a night transcriber, so I'm like working at night. I remember the first night I was working, I didn't realize the building was set up so that the lights go out when nobody's moving, so I just thought it was like a ghost attack. But anyway, yeah, so but working in the paranormal field, like working around the paranormal field, I just became aware of the tools, the passion, like all of the stuff that paranormal investigators experience. And so that became, another form of, just kind of the plot coming to you, like, okay, this is material to, bake, to cook, as they are, did with her book. But yeah, so definitely plot for me.
Okay, we got a solid plotter. Who else dares to answer the question? Which again, you can always change it. There's no wrong answers. It's whatever you feel is right for you. What do you think?
I'm a combo person, so I'll just take it from, because Shanae started, but so she had this idea, and then you're working with a partnership, so you have to work with other people's ideas. And exactly, yeah. So she had a father-daughter story that was coming to her, and then so we just started cooking and brewing. But I'm somebody who can go back and forth. Like, I do love to think about the plot, but sometimes things just come to me for story ideas. And then I'll just say, oh, okay, like a trip, for instance. A trip to Morocco inspired something that's still cooking for me that I want to write. I don't know how it's going to start or what's going to happen with it, but I do know I want to just a moment inspired a story that's going to happen eventually. So yeah.
You're right, it's brewing. It's just simmering. It's got to develop, but it'll come eventually. Okay, so what comes first? Writing, plot, characters, or something else? Isaac or AR?
I'm going next. Yeah, so for me, I start with a series with like a lot of bad jokes. And then so I'll literally will look like a document that's just a series of bad jokes that either a character would deliver in like within the narrative, or a series of dialogue between two characters I haven't invented yet that I think is could be amusing. And then I will subsequently decide, all right, well, what character do I need to create in order for these bad jokes to not be as bad? And then subsequently, I usually have to have somebody else tell me, once they've already read the first draft, that there has to be a plot. So the plot doesn't, I like forget every time. I've only published the one book, but I've written, like 7 or 8 of them. And the huge problem is that I often get to the end and forget that there needed to be a story the whole time. So I'm getting a little bit better at that. Like, I'm telling myself beforehand that there needs to be a story, but like I get a bunch of bad jokes, I get characters to deliver them and think about like what their inner worlds are like, and then I just have them exist on the page for a while. And now I'm getting, I think, a little bit better at remembering there has to be some kind of story that I either need to plan beforehand or I need to figure out as it's going.
I think
Can I
Shanelle felt
ask?
something.
I'm sorry. Yes, Marisa, am I stepping on your toe?
No, this is great. This is a conversation. We're flowing.
Can I ask? Okay, so it's just like it comes to you as a series of conversations, the story?
No, they're random. No, they're completely random. It's just like you're trying to fall asleep at night and you just start giggling about something. You're like, I find that funny. Maybe somebody else would, and you just jot it down on a Google Doc in the middle of the night with your phone screen turned way down so you don't wake your partner, and then you just hope that you'll still find it funny the next day and you find a place for it later. There are even like things that I thought of that I thought were funny, or like a little quip that I thought of when I was like 21, that I'm 35 now, that have been in like every single book I've ever written, that I really, really like it. And I just figure, well, it's not actually repetitive until these books are published. So I don't actually have to recycle it forever until it's actually on a published page.
Okay. So it starts with that dialogue, and then the story just goes from there.
Character.
Yeah, I got to find the rest out.
He's working on the plot. I will say, what my favorite, again, motion to be, oh boy. My favorite joke he did was a lot of Jewish Torah-centered jokes where he's like, the day doesn't, I'm not going to say it wrong, the day doesn't start so you can tell a wild ass from a domesticated ass.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It makes sense.
There's a whole, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 pages where the joke is just that, you know, the audience needs to find the word ass funny inherently. And that's the whole thing. It's just a bunch of stuff about ass. It's great.
Also, I just
I don't
realized
know.
this
It's
is
weird
for
to say you're wrong.
teenagers. We can say that. This is for teens. I think we can say that.
Oh.
But it's from
No, but in this case, it means it's a domestic ass versus a wild ass because it's a donkey. Actually, it's fun. The book's been translated into German, and the only question that the German translator had was like, "Why is this a joke? Like, why does this make sense?" Because it's the unique English thing that we
language.
have the same words, language, like that those have the same word that mean these two different things. And they were like, "Well, how the hell do I write this scene when that's the whole scene is
Whole
about
point.
those words mean the same thing, both a
Yes.
donkey and your butt." And like they were like, "Well, I don't know what to do with this."
Also, points for us, more animals. Just saying, we got a ghost pony, we got the horse, but yeah, so just think of that joke sometime in your life. Just like the day doesn't start till I can tell the difference between a domesticated and a not domesticated. Anyway, I loved it. Thank you so much. But I appreciate it. So it made sense when you said jokes. I felt it. All right, AR. What comes first, writing for you, or you have no idea and you're just gonna share that with us? No judgment.
I thought about this question a lot, and I at first I really thought that they were all different, and then I kept sort of distilling them down and realized that it's usually a combination of the setting and the kind of magic or genre or supernatural element that to me exists in that or would be exciting to think about in that setting. Like I have a series that's based on Italian folktale magic, that's very much tied up with where my family came from in Italy. And so like that to me always made sense that like, oh, there's a certain type of magic that exists in this place. And what would it be like to tell a story about that? And there's for the Lost Coast, there's a certain type of magic that made sense to me. I moved to the redwood forest in California when I was 17 years old, and I stepped into a grove of redwoods for the first time, and I looked around and I was like, this is magic. I don't know exactly what that means yet. I just feel something different here because of the scale of what everything looks like and how wild and unique and beautiful it is. And it just feels like things are possible here that aren't possible in other places. And that turned into a sort of a very specific, like witchy fog situation where there's like enchanted trees and ravens and all kinds of things going on, but it all comes from the place. It's all tied up with it. So, and then you have bakery magic, which is a very specific sort of thing that I think comes from that situation. And so I think that relationship is something I keep coming back to a lot, and I hadn't really thought about it that way until I was thinking about this question. So
I love when things hit us in a different way and we're like, oh, I don't know, things we realize about ourselves, kind of like our main characters in the book. All of you, your people realize things. But speaking of writing, any advice for our writers to be or current writers who may be watching? What is one thing you might wish to have heard when you were that budding little teen writer, putting that byline out there? Oh, AR wants to take hot to do this. They're up.
Revision is fun, I promise. It sounds like the worst word. It sounds like the worst chore you're going to have to do after you feel like you finally finished your book. But actually, you've created like this awesome map to what your book will eventually be. And you now then get to follow all of the pieces of what you've put down and create something even stronger and more exciting and more unique and even better than you had initially imagined. So even if you have to come up with another word for it that doesn't sound as scary and and awful as revision, just have fun with it.
It's kind of like touch-ups, Photoshop, just quick little touch-ups. That's all. I love it. Okay, best advice could be a brief. What do we think? Either Isaac, Shawnee, Shanelle. You're all writers. I know you are. So you have to have some tip.
Yeah. I would hop in and say, listen to people. One of my favorite things to do, I am not able to do it as often as I used to, but I love to eavesdrop, whether it's in a cafe or at the grocery. I used to live next door to this grocery store where the funniest things I had to like make sure that I had my phone with me, or whatever I had, so I could just take down what was happening at this grocery store. For these people were hilarious, but just like listen to dialogue and listen to the people around you, how they speak. I think it's really important as a writer to just be able to take that and put it, the honesty of people's language and how they speak and what they're saying and why and all that. It's really fascinating. It's one of my favorite things to do is listen to people. If I could just be a fly on the wall, yeah, that would be my superpower, to be a fly on the wall in most rooms. So
Beautiful.
listening.
I like it.
I like that. I think this was like an early critique I got, and it goes a little bit along with the revision part, but like, find some trusted people whose, feedback you can take without getting too emotionally hurt by it, or, because they're in your corner and they just want to make your work better, and like listen to those critiques. But I had an early instructor, this sort of goes along with the overhearing people thing, and he pointed out that in my stories, every time there was dialogue, people were saying each other's names. Like I'd be like, Isaac said, hey Marisa, how are you? And I'd be like, okay, hi Isaac, I'm great, Isaac, how are you? And he was like, go listen to any conversation anyone ever has and hear how often people say each other's names. And I was like, oh, the answer is never. No one ever says. You can get along with people. You're introduced to someone at a party or something. You can talk to them for 2 hours and never reveal that you can't remember them. They actually remember their name because no one says each other's names in conversation. So that was like a sort of early writing advice that sort of, I don't know, blew my mind. It also sort of dovetails with that, like, listen to people when they give you feedback, because I do think, like, it's very hard, I think personally, maybe other writers are better at this than I am. It's very hard to judge your own work because not even because you're not a good judge, but because you get so lost in it. You spend so much time with it that it becomes hard to have perspective. And so I do think it's important for two things. One, to take time away from it so that when you do come back for a revision, you can see it with as fresh eyes as possible. And then, which when you're like obsessively trying to finish something is very difficult. And then B, take other people's feedback, because even if it's not always fun, they can often see things in your work that you can't, just because you're only you and you only have that one perspective.
There.
That's so good. I agree. I'm going to harness the magical powers of everything that everybody said. Isaac, I agree with you about when I'm sometimes writing and I have people saying each other's names and I got to go back and on the revision, in revision, I have to like polish that up. But it's my advice would be to, as you're writing, feel free to not judge yourself as you create, because sometimes we can be our harshest critics even as we're writing, and you're just like, you sometimes, and that kind of sometimes can lead to writer's block because you're so busy judging yourself. I say, feel free to just allow yourself to put whatever on the page, knowing as they are, and everyone has said, you can come back on the revisions and make it better. And then when you get stuck, I love to just walk out, just take a walk out in nature. We'll take a walk around me. And sometimes the story, I don't know what this is. It's just magic. Sometimes it's magic, but things about your story might reveal themselves in your environment. Like as you're walking, somebody will say a line of dialogue, or somebody will, there will be a moment you'll be like, that's the breakthrough I was looking for. That's what I needed for my story. So just kind of like getting out of your own way and giving yourself grace as you write has been beneficial to me.
That's beautiful. So take a walk in nature. All of you at some point kind of said, listen to those around you who care, who want you good feedback. And whether it's that paper that's due tomorrow, it's like summer, so it's not due, or you're writing your novel, take a break from it, come back. Don't just do it all in the 2 hours before it's due at 6 a.m. Just life advice for the teenagers that are here, or adults, whichever is true. I would totally take my own advice. All right, so I have a question for all of you. This is a big one. I came up with this one. I'm very excited. So why does this book or this subject that's in your book matter to you? Why was it worth spending a year or more of your life on it? That's right. Yeah. If you take on a writing project, you're committing a lot to this. So why does this matter to you? Or why does the book matter to you? Easy questions. Nothing big at all. Who would like to go first? Feel free to unmute yourself, put yourself out there. My beautiful, bold writers. I know it's scary.
All right, it's a big. No, go ahead. No, I don't. No, I'm.
You're
right.
talking now.
This is a safe space. We're all friends here.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, so I feel like it's important to take a step back to the year 2019-ish when I
A year ago.
was, yeah, for who knows how many years ago. Only I had no way of knowing. And I had noticed this, what I thought was a fairly horrifying rise in anti-Semitic violence following another year, 2016. And I was like, well, this is bad. And then there was a particular, I also saw some data that sort of corroborated my own anecdotal viewpoint. And then there were some like particularly horrifying anti-Semitic incidents that in my mind, sort of like forced me to start writing the book, not necessarily thinking that it would become a full length thing or whatever, just something I wanted I was thinking about. And so I started writing sort of in response to that. And it became, so I had in mind to write, aside from the jokes, I had in mind to write like a book about anti-Semitism. And then it turned into other things I wanted to show, because like the book is important to me because I think it shares something about the world that there is anti-Semitism and that it shouldn't happen, and that cross-cultural understanding can help make that not as bad and things like that. But I also, it sort of got lost or got mixed up in other things that I think are important, which is like Jewish representation in kids and young adult literature, particularly also like observant Jewish, but also just religious. I think there aren't that many books about, like, more than half of American families go to a religious service like once a week, and believe, are observant, but there aren't that many young adult books that sort of that present a perspective of a teen sort of wondering what he or she or they believe in relation to what their family believes. So it's important to me in that it shows sort of those three things. Like, it shows, hey, anti-Semitism is bad and here's where it comes from and how you fight it. And then, hey, here's Jewish representation that I didn't see. And then I can't remember if I was doing 1, 2, 3 or ABC, but whatever, the third one was just like, somebody dealing with their faith in a coming of age story that I wanted to see in teen literature.
Beautiful. It's true. We always need more representation, more BIPOC, more LGBTQIA+, Jewish representation, people of faith. That's totally fair. Yay! It mattered to you and you wrote about it. All right, Shawnee and Shanelle.
Agree. Yeah, Shanae, did you want to go ahead, or we can overlap, or did you want to go first?
And Isaac,
I strongly, go ahead, but I just wanted to say, Isaac, I love that the world sort of pushed you to write the book. What you saw going on in the world just pushed you into the book. I love that. I love that when we step forward, when we feel those feelings and we're like, I gotta do something about this. I love that you were inspired to do it. And Shanelle, I'll get out of your way. Go ahead. Oh yes. Well, I for me, Ghost Roast is a book that the both of us, we, like Marisa, you were saying earlier, that you write the things that you need, you write the things, I need today as an adult, and stories that for us being African American folks who have ties to the South, legacy, directly tied to slavery. And Shanae actually found, what was it, the Bill of Sale for one of our ancestors. And just like so much history in these places where we go to visit, so much history existing on a day-to-day basis, that we, a lot of the times I feel like we work to run away from, because there's so much trauma and pain involved in it, and either, sometimes we get exhausted, sometimes we get overwhelmed, sometimes, even with our ancestors, it's just like, put it to the side. We can't deal, we have to deal with what's currently going on. So what I love about Ghost Roast is that, we take a current modern day girl like Chelsea, who's living in a city such, and that's what we love so much about New Orleans, you know, the history, the culture, everything that helped inform Chelsea's world and her worldview and this story, but then also so much that exists right there, you know, in terms of slavery and some injustices that have been happening and continue to happen. But just to have that intertwined and woven together in the story, I just love the balance of that. I mean, and even visually, how Emily and Ashwarya handled that so beautifully. You know, you'll see the muted colors as we come back and forth. And then Chelsea's world is so purple and warm and vibrant, you know, but then having, you know, a satisfying, you know, sort of arc with both stories. I love it. And I just love opening up history in that way. Even her going to do the microfilm
Yeah.
in the library, that sort of those little touches and things like that. It's like, you know, we can dive into, you know, this and in a way that, you know, we brought some levity to the story, but there was some really serious issues happening in the story as well. So I just love that balance. And even when you know, I'll be flipping through it. You know how we get sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to walk away, but then sometimes you'll just go back and just be looking through it. And I feel, you know, as an adult person, you know, I'm still laughing at the jokes and all that. So, you know, sometimes you can, you know how we are as authors. Sometimes it could be like, oh, I don't want to read it. You know, it's
Yeah.
out there. You know, and then sometimes we just enjoy it as it was meant to be enjoyed. So I feel that's the way I feel about Ghost Rose. That it's out in the world. It has not only is it a fun read, but it has some weighty subjects that I think readers could appreciate as well. And you know, I'm proud of that. And it matters on a couple of different levels, and I'm happy it's out.
And I love that we're having this conversation the day after Juneteenth.
Yeah.
I just think as Shanelle is saying, just love that we invite readers, you know, from all backgrounds to look at history in a new way. That's the other thing. I think part of the issue in our country as a whole is that we don't want to talk about things. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to take a new light and say, hey, like terrible things happened in the past that even affect, you know, what's going on today. Like, let's just look at it and see what's going on and you know, move forward in a new sort of a way. Yeah, let's turn the lights on. So that's what I love. And I love that this story, you know, allows young readers to take a look at their past, take a look at history, take a look around their neighborhoods, take a look around their cities and say, oh, I wonder why those buildings are there, why, you know, this happens, why these people, you know, whatever.
Look at the statue, who doesn't?
Yeah. So I love that, and we've been getting like really great responses from people about the book. But yeah, that's something that's really special to me, that we were able to make history fun.
I love it. AR, would you like to contribute about why this book matters to you? These years of your life on.
Yeah, I think that more than any other book that I've written, this one has evolved for me in terms of its importance after it was published. I set out to with the hope of writing a really joyful book about queer and trans community, and I was really excited to write Sid, who's a main character who's agender and who spends the entire book not using pronouns and having the entire book. It doesn't lead up to a choice there. It's about like creating a safe space for the character within that. But really the whole, beyond one character's identity, the whole book was supposed to be about safe spaces for the queer and trans community and what is possible when we create them and we foster them. And it's set in Austin, where I was living right before I wrote the book. And I felt so many, I found so many of those spaces there. I felt so excited and welcome and happy in those spaces. And then and at the same time, when the book came out, it was very much at the beginning of a wave of enormous things for queer and trans people in this country have changed since I was writing this book, since I first envisioned the book, since the book, right around the time the book was being published, a wave was beginning of pushback, of real and not to say that it hadn't been there before, not to say that there hadn't been true difficulties and challenges and so many important fights that were being fought by our communities before that. But just to have it be published into that moment, and specifically into a moment where queer and trans teenagers in Texas were where they are in that moment. The book is for them. The book is for everyone who's going through this moment and hopefully can find a safe space, whether it is in their community, whether it's in a book, whether it's because a great librarian put something on a shelf that wasn't there the day before, or and or if it's just a small group of friends, or if it's whatever that space looks like, whatever that is, to just have it still be this joyful ode to those spaces and those communities feels so much more important to me even now than it did before. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think all the books are needed, and we just need more representation, more diverse views. Again, write the books you didn't see, because then it will be into the world, which is amazing. So as we're wrapping up on our time, I do want to say, if anybody has any hot questions they want to ask these authors, put it in the chat. I'll ask one quick question, last one, to my authors. It can be a brief answer. So what do you love about this book and want the people who are listening and watching to take away from it? So not just ghost ponies, not just starbursts, not just beautiful peach, strawberry, basil pie. That is what things should do. What would you want people to take away from your book in our last few minutes? I know this is so unfair. Sum your book up in a brief, a kernel they'll take away with them. Mostly we're hungry. We're all hungry, and we want starburst, and we want pie, and we want cake. Well,
we may not want to eat breakup brownies.
No, but they would be really good though.
But
They're
they would
really
be
dark
good.
chocolate.
They might be worth it.
I mean, it seemed like the people who got the breakup brownies kind of needed them. So you're drawn in this world to what you need. So
I would have to say what I love about the book Ghost Rose is that Chelsea is a character who people have called weird and ghost girl and all sorts of things. But what I really love about her journey is that she learns how to be and be okay with being herself. And it's just such a cool message that I just love. And I want as many people to just embrace, whether you're a teenager or a grown person, just being okay with being you. I love that about it.
I love it. Thank you, Shawnee. I love it. Anybody else want to give their love, what you love about your book? You can love something silly and small or something huge and wide.
I just love Doug. I love her dad. I don't know. It was like we were channeling, and he's just such a goofball that it just makes me laugh.
Sometimes it's just one character that can just hook you. I'm just saying, like Justice for Dance, Isaac or AR. What do you love about your book? I mean, you might love it so much you hate it because you worked on it so much, but now it's out in the world. You can't change it. Can't do that. But what do you still hold on to that you're like, this is the thing I'm proud of, or this is the thing I love?
I think that the thing that I hold on to in a really positive, happy, that I want to keep sharing with people is just getting to write a rom-com that isn't just about putting one kind of relationship or one kind of love at the forefront. So like really embracing how much fun a rom-com can be, and all the fun of that, and the tropes of that, and the energy of that, and also really just showing lots of different kinds of relationships and lots of different kinds of love, and in different stages of relationships in different places, and getting to like celebrate that. So yeah.
Celebrate love in all its forms. Old, young, 14-year-old, ASL speaking people. We got, yes, all different types. I love. Isaac, what do you love about your book?
I love that it's it's like takes on, it's a very serious book in a lot of ways. Like there's some serious stuff that happens, but it never loses its goofiness. I think that's the thing I'm most proud of.
That's totally fair. And again, there are really good good, bad, good, bad jokes in Isaac's book, which it makes me almost want to read the Torah to be like, okay, so what? So the soul comes out, leaves your body at night, and you gotta watch. Yeah, there's a lot of like existential things here. So I just want to say we're out of time. It went so fast. And you guys, whenever I lead a book discussion, and if there's no other questions, I feel good. Like we answered all your questions. We had a delightful time. I'm sure you're hungry. Please go snack, hydrate. It's really hot outside today. It's kind of a heat wave. And I do wanted to say for Sam Denver, who had a great thing in the chat, can't change what you can't see, which was a couple of questions back about ghost roast. So maybe if you're writing, write different things. And I'll probably throw it back to Grace if Grace wants to see us out.
I'm back. Thank you so much, everybody. That was such a fantastic, lovely, just a beautiful conversation. And I am just so excited that we could have you all here. So thank you so much, Marisa. Thank you to all of you authors that we are just, it was such a pleasure to listen to you chat and talk about your writing process and everything. And a big thank you, of course, to our publishing partners, Harper and Candlewick and Penguin. If you're interested in some more fun free live author events, we have one left for this month that we're very excited about. It's a Learn to Draw event next week. But you can view all of our events we've had going on all month on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in the summer reading program, if you'd like some prize books, just get in touch with me or anyone on our CATS team. And other than that, I just want to say thank you to all of you viewers. Happy summer, happy reading from all of us at the Children's and Teen Department here at Baker and Taylor. Have a great rest of your day.